Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this show on Friday, June 26, 2020. Crazy busy news week, Drew.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, do you want to talk about what just broke while we were recording?
Sounds like Mulan is getting pushed back once again, Jim. I'm sorry. I know you were looking forward to sitting in that weird theater in Texas where the guy was spraying down the seats, but did you see that video?
That was a troubling image, yes.
Yes.
That only happens between the movies, right? They don't come in. I know there's the smellorama and, the seats that vibrate.
Yeah, right.
Just sort of like, is that how, they're going to do the deep going forward? It's like, ooh, you can feel the water. They spray you.
Right.
And you've been crazy busy. You're pumping out your usual 15 stories for Collider each week.
Yeah.
By the way, just wanted to make sure folks saw the feature that you did on Cars 3, which, as you point...
Cars 2.
Cars 2, my mistake. Which, again, arguably, well, not arguably, is the worst Pixar film of all time. You do a very deep dive there explaining how and why that happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, did I get everything right?
The only thing you missed, and again, you got, it was that in addition to John Lasseter's dad passing away, he also broke his arm during this period.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so he was not only emotionally crippled, but he was literally working with one arm, tied up. So, I mean, that still doesn't excuse the film that we got, which basically killed the franchise. I mean, if you look at the business that Cars 2 was the highest grossing one of the series worldwide. It made, 559 worldwide, but the next film that it came out, 6 years later, Cars 3, business fell off by almost, 150 million.
Yeah.
And it's not a terrible movie.
3? No, I like 3 a lot. We rewatched it recently. We kind of filled in Katie's, Pixar knowledge a little bit, and she hadn't seen that one. We rewatched some of the ones she hadn't seen, and that one held up well. And rewatching Brave, actually, I really got a lot more out of it this time than I did when it came out theatrically. So
you can't watch Brave and think, well, what would Brenda Chapman's version like, and what got changed. And it's just the more distance you get from those stories or, in the heat of the moment, you can just appreciate the film for what it is.
Yeah, I think that's what it was for sure.
But, speaking of sequels, poor Sponge on the Run. Seriously, I sat today and it's like, well, how many, because remember, people have joked about, the New Mutants, how many times they changed the release date on that. I think Sponge on the Run actually has a beat at this point. The way I counted, there have been 7 different release dates, and now there is no release date, right?
Yeah. Well, I was even telling you that initially it was supposed to be like VOD now-ish, and then CBS All Access in early 2021. Which, by the way, Jim, I think we're just going to have to call the Mission Impossible podcast the Paramount Pictures podcast, because I think those are the only movies Paramount is actually going to release in the next few years. So, I mean, think about it. Lovebirds went to Netflix. I think they've got another movie going to Amazon. It's like they're not really into releasing movies right now. They're the opposite of Christopher Nolan, Jim. They want to release no movies whatsoever.
Well, but the fascinating thing for me is it was earlier this week I think it was the New York Times did an article about the fact that without the movie theaters being open in New York and LA, it just doesn't make sense to do a domestic release, at least at the studio level. And given what's going on with COVID right now, and just today, Texas went into basically full lockdown. They shut down the bars. In talking with folks at Disney, there's a genuine concern. It's not the question of that we're going to have a second flare-up. It's that the first flare-up never ended.
Yeah. Did you see Jock Lindsay's closing the day after it opened?
Jeez. God. Well, but on the other hand, the fact that we're trapped at home means that we get to watch Disney Plus. And
Yes.
just today, all 6 episodes of Into the Unknown, making Frozen 2, became available. And now, sadly, Drew and I have only seen the 3 that were available for press preview because we've both been crazy busy. We haven't caught the back 3. But I was really kind of startled at how honest this is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, part of our job is, somebody will tell you something. It's like, well, you can't tell this story. But,
Yes.
and you'll then hear something about a difficulty that a film is having or something they overcome or something they haven't overcome yet. And,
Right.
and the thing with Frozen 2 or Into the Unknown is I think it's like the first frame. It's like 9 months from premiere, only 22% of the movie is done. They're totally upfront about the fact that at this point in production, something is talking to Elsa and, leading her into the unknown, but they still don't know what it is.
Right.
I get that that's kind of in the Frozen tradition, because wasn't it only 15 months prior to release that they figured out that Anna and Elsa were sisters in the first film?
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I mean, the amount of trouble that Show Yourself wound up being. I mean,
yeah.
it's certainly the arc of the first 3 episodes. I don't know if that's going to continue, but it's pretty amazing.
And where they left off, or where I finished, they've just brought in Brittany Lee, because they are 3 months away from premiere at this point, and they now they figured out who is singing to Elsa and what Show Yourself is revealing, and now they have to design the entire glacier where the scene is set, and it's like,
yeah, that was crazy.
I can't imagine doing that level of work that late in the game, but they did, and it's an amazing sequence.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real treat for people like us, Jim, who are so obsessed with this sort of behind the scenes lore, and the behind the scenes lore that nobody ever shows us or lets us talk about. So this is really great. And I posted my interview today with Megan Harding, who is the director, and she was like, they're so kind of open, and like we were talking about earlier, the stuff with Chris Buck and what his family goes through, what Jennifer Lee's family goes through. I mean, it's really amazing to see them as real people, just as fully dimensional as any of the characters in the movie.
Yeah, and there's one little moment, I think it's in episode 2, where they're doing a screening, and poor Peter Del Vecchio, the producer, shows up. And it's like, I'm here 2 hours early. Why am I here 2 hours early? Why do I do this to myself? Just a very human moment. I mean, really
Yes.
well worth checking out. And speaking of which, if you're checking stuff out over at Disney Springs, please to report.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. I did it again. They got to change the name of Disney Springs. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. But over at Disney Plus, The Simpsons. Remember when the channel first came on the air and they had the issue with the aspect ratio? To give the folks at the streaming service credit, it's like, okay, we hear the complaint, we acknowledge it, and they fixed it. And I bring that up because just today, the DuckTales team is tweeting out, it's like, hey, we finally got them to put the DuckTales episodes not only in the proper order on Disney Plus, but in the creative preferred order. Evidently, This was the order that they wanted to show the episodes in over at the Disney Channel.
Yes, I saw that there was some kind of creative thing, and I think episode 4 became episode 10 or something, or vice versa.
Yeah,
But now they're all sorted out. Did I ever tell you that Alex Hirsch told me a couple months ago that they uploaded Gravity Falls in the wrong way? That it's like an international version or something, so when non-human or non-English speaking characters are speaking, the subtitles are wrong or something. So that should be fixed hopefully soon as well. I know a lot of the older shows are out of order too, so maybe they're sort of systematically correcting this stuff. But it's great to know that at least our beloved DuckTales, Jim,
there we go.
The show that we tirelessly champion week in, week out.
And speaking of which, when is the second half of...
Jim, I was about to ask you because we got a notice that Amphibia and the Owl House are coming back on July 11th, which, by the way, did you see Kermit is going to be in Amphibia this season?
I did.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Muppets Now trailer that bubbled up.
Yeah.
What is it, Jeremy from Legal?
Oh, Joe the legal weasel.
There we go, Joe the legal weasel.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I've been.
Yes.
It gives me great hope. But again, yeah, it was got genuinely a delight to see that Kermit's going to turn up on Amphibia.
Yeah.
But yeah, no news on the second half of season 3, and
you saw that there were only like 5 episodes of Owl House too.
yeah,
I thought it was very weird.
Yeah, but I just feel like that's more the world we live in now. For example, just 6 episodes of Into the Unknown, or the Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. There were only the 8 episodes. It just sort of,
Yeah.
oh, remember when there used to be 13 episodes of something? Oh, that was a time.
Remember when there were 24 episodes of ER every year, Jim? That was.
Well,
can you imagine?
Every so often, I will, in research, be looking at older sitcoms, and it's like, there were years that the Andy Griffith Show did 44 episodes.
Holy cow.
How is that even possible?
Well, and next week, by the time this show comes out, the new Unsolved Mysteries is on Netflix, which I've seen. And there are only 6 episodes, 1 mystery per episode, when it seemed like there were hundreds of original episodes, and they had 4 mysteries per episode. So that should tell you, Jim, how we are streamlining things. And no Robert Stack.
I was about to
narration
say,
either.
no Robert Stack standing in fog wearing a trench coat. On the other hand, I did see you on Twitter talking about how the hotel one is especially unnerving, or...
Oh, yes. Just watch that one, Jim, and tell me if you can figure out what happened to this guy. I won't give anything away right now, but it is crazy. It is crazy. It kept me up. So tell me what you think.
All right, I will. Okay. Now, turning to obviously more serious news, let's talk about the Jenny Slate Christian Bell thing.
And now The Simpsons. Basically, no white character will be playing an African-American character on any of these shows anymore. And, I think it's for the best, right?
No, I agree. And, obviously we're in a very significant moment in our country's history. And it's genuinely thrilling to watch these sort of things happening. But I have to wonder, how do you think the Hank Azaria Pooh thing plugs in here? Did that plow the road? Because face it, he was very resistant. I mean, wasn't it the documentary, The Problem with Apu, that sort of set this in motion, or? Yeah,
and it's interesting because at first they were like, well, he's still going to play Apu. And then I think it was only earlier this year that he said, I'm not playing him anymore. Which shows you that these things aren't the easiest things to maybe figure out or to come to terms with as an actor too, I guess. If you're performing someone for, God, how many years has The Simpsons been out? 20 years or
30,
God, it's more.
31, soon to be 32.
31 years, okay. So that's a long time to play a character, and I can understand that he had to go through that process. And but I think what's really interesting, I think you're right that he plowed the road, because these decisions were pretty much instantaneous.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I want to say the Jenny's saying that she'd be stepping away from Big Mouth at Netflix. It was almost in the same window of time that the news broke about Kirsten and her work on Central Park.
Yeah. And then as we were going to air, The Simpsons released the statement that it was basically the same thing. So, and any number of characters will be voiced by different actors next season, which will actually, I think, give the show a little vitality, right? A little like shot in the arm to hear somebody different in the show and see how that works out. And I don't know, I'm very excited about it.
And look, I applaud the effort for authenticity, and more to the point, to create these opportunities for Black performers and Hispanic performers and the like. I can't help but think about what happened with Pocahontas. We talked on the last show about the premiere, but during the actual production of the film, Disney really wanted to do right by the First Peoples of America and Canada. So when they were casting up the roles of the members of the tribe that Pocahontas was in, they tried to find as many Native American performers as they could. And they really scored a coup when they cast the role of Chief Powhatan, because they got Russell Means, who was, one of the gentlemen behind the AIM, the American Indian movement that back in the 60s did so much, work to push forward for the rights of Native Americans. And he had the gravitas for Powhatan, and they were thrilled with how authentic he sounded in the booth. But then it came time to record the reprise of, what was the song? Steady Like the Beating Drum.
Right.
Yeah, and it turns out Russell is a wonderful spokesman for the First People and a dedicated activist, but he couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. And so after several sessions of listening to him mangle the song, they very quietly, said, well, all right, thank you. And then they went off and got Jim Cummings, who came in.
Accused of keeping a dog in a bucket, Jim.
He was clear to that. Don't get me in trouble with Winnie the Pooh here, So, but yeah, so that they brought him in to basically do a Russell Means impression as he sang this reprise of Steady as a Beating Drum, and then jump ahead 5 years to Mulan, and they made an attempt to as many Asian American performers as they could possibly get to make this film as authentic as possible. But then
and Harvey Firestein.
Well, okay, just who, Yao was actually, I'm king of the mountain, just sort of,
right.
I love that character.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it just came time to cast Grandmother Fa, who Act 1, during a part of the film when they really need comic relief, she carries a lot of water. She actually sets Act 2 in motion because she's the one who prays to the ancestors to watch over Mulan after she's run to join the army, and she wakes them up.
Yeah.
And then she has the comedy button at the end. Ooh, sign me up for the next war. I know both of the directors on this movie, and they talked about they auditioned every Asian American woman of an appropriate age for Grandmother Fa. And just, some of them could be funny and some of them could be serious, but nobody could do everything. And so eventually it's like, we need somebody like June Foray. And it's like, well, let's get June Foray. And, she comes in and knocks it out. So it's just sort of like, I guess what I'm saying here is I applaud the effort to create these opportunities. In fact, again, that's what's really commendable about both Jenny and Kirsten is they stepped away from a job. It's like, no.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's great to be authentic, but it's also, I want to create just a little breathing space for the poor people in casting who, if after they do weeks and weeks of auditions and they do an exhaustive search and they can't necessarily find what they're looking for, that can we just leave the door ajar a little?
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's a great moment in both our country's history and entertainment history that this sort of thing happens. And speaking of history, something really huge is about to happen on the show. But hang on, we've got to do an ad, and we'll be back in a second.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
It's Mulch Diggums himself, Josh Gad.
Josh Gad. Holy cow. Wow.
Jim, do you not have video where you are?
He never puts on his video.
The Witness Protection Program has rules, Josh. I don't live at the end of a dirt road out of choice. It's me and the Unabomber. You are the busiest man in the COVID-19 era. You seem to be everywhere doing everything right now.
I don't know if that's a description I'm very fond of, but thank you so much. I would love to be the busiest man in the post-apocalypse. That would be nice. But I'm grateful that I get to to do so much that hopefully brings joy to many people. But I tweeted you a while ago that my daughters and I have been listening to the podcast and just loving it. It's this like bright silver lining in the midst of such negativity and darkness and sadness. And we absolutely love you guys. And Drew and I have become Twitter buddies.
Yes, it's true.
Well,
yeah. Are you jealous, Jim? Go ahead. You can tell us.
Totally. I'm crushed beyond words. But, well, again, very sweet of you to come on. I have so enjoyed your reunions online. And in fact, didn't you just finish up with Ferris Bueller? Or
Oh, Jim. Ferris Bueller is... It's funny because each one has been spectacular in its own way, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and especially the ending, which I want you to reach out to me after you watch it, hopefully on Sunday. The ending is the most insane thing we've ever done on the show.
Really?
Oh, it's the most insane thing.
This might be the one I'm the most excited for.
Oh, it's
even though they're all amazing.
It is crazy. You know, we usually try to go out with a surprise, whether it was bringing in the cast of Back to the Future, the musical, to sing us out of that episode, or bringing in Ray Parker Jr. to do Ghostbusters. This episode, though, we're going out with a bang. I wanted to hang it up because unlike you guys, I don't know how you have the stamina to do this weekly. I did 6 of them, and I'm like, I'm good. There's nothing more to talk about. But it was been a blast, and we've raised over $250,000 for COVID relief efforts, for equal justice initiatives. And it's just been, we feel very blessed that we've been able to make people happy and help out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great part, too, is it's such a great cause. It's not just your amazing Rolodex being flashed on YouTube. It's,
I love, by the way, Drew, Jim, I'm not looking at you right now, but Drew's got this rabbinical sort of like scholarly, Talmudic leader look to him right now. Like, it's just this long
I have not trimmed my beard. Yeah.
What is it that song from the American Adventure, the Two Brothers? They are talking about redoing that as part of this whole Splash Mountain, all problematic theme park attractions must be reviewed. So, you're ready.
Put me in. One wore gray and one wore blue.
There we go.
Ready to do some Civil War reenactments, buddy. You look it.
Well, we have so many things to talk about on your plate right now. I mean, Central Park, new episode today. I have not watched yet, but you told me this one is a showstopper.
Oh, my
Correct?
God. So this episode, I said when we started creating it that my character of this busker needed to have a rival busker, and it had to be played by my co-star from Book of Mormon, Andrew Rannells. And so we bring in Rannells for this episode, and there are 2 new songs. One written by Jim, you would know the girls, that both of you would probably, Samsel and Anderson. So it's Kristen Anderson's sister, Kate Anderson, and her partner, Elisa Samsel, who wrote the Olaf's Frozen Adventure a couple of years back.
Yes.
And their music for this is just spectacular. And so they, along with Darren Criss, have written 2 original songs that our characters sing, plus another song that Catherine Hahn and Kristen Bell sing that's extraordinary.
I cannot wait. Jim, have you been watching it? I don't know if Jim has been watching
have.
it.
Well, I particularly love the handoff for this episode where they say, well, there's no consequence. Nothing could possibly happen. And it's a really ballsy transition and, at a lovely setup.
Yeah, it is. It's the I think the joy for Lauren Bouchard, of course, who created Bob's Burgers, working on this, is he's loved playing in that serialized world a little bit because he never really got to with Bob's. And so there's a little bit of that enjoyment that even though the hopefully the episodes can exist on their own and you can come in episodically, it still has connective tissue that pays off if you stick with it.
Right. And Jim just told me that he watched the first 3 episodes of Into the Unknown, which are the only 3 that I've watched so far because those are the only ones they gave us. But have you watched the whole thing so far?
I have. And by the way, I didn't intend to. And that's not like to speak ill of anybody involved. I just literally didn't have the time, but I wanted to watch it before I did. They asked me to do some press for it, and I was like, I have so much on my plate, but I did it. I was so mesmerized, and I was speaking to Adina and Kristen about it, and the crazy thing is I don't think we even realized how much drama and insanity there was in the making of Frozen 2. Like, we didn't realize that the movie was almost made without that last insane number in it. And so, like, I really was sort of shocked at the process because they sort of protected us from that. And we would go in and be like, wait, why are things so different today? But, you know, but like, for instance, the whole thing that I do in the middle of the film where I start recapping the first Frozen film, that was done, I want to say 3 or 4 months the movie was released. 3 or 4 months before the movie was released.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what did they say to you?
They said, so we are having an issue where we have to get a lot of information out and we need to do it in sort of like a fun way, because right now it's kind of like it's a little slow, it's a little like pedantic, and so we want to give Olaf the opportunity to sort of recap things that people need to know. So I was like, okay, I got this. They handed me pages that were so extraordinarily crazy to begin with, and then let me loose, and I did my thing, and it was great. And so, and similarly, although not, but like something like Samantha, which I literally just came up with on the day, we have this back and forth now, Jen, Chris, and I, where they trust me and I trust them, and we try crazy things and we see what sticks and what doesn't. And it was just like one of those things where it was just kismet.
Well, did you know, like, the tragic story of, you know, Chris's son and everything that was going on with Jen as you were doing that? Because I imagine that some people who worked on the movie maybe had no idea and will watch this documentary and sort of see it for the first time.
Yeah, no, I knew, and it didn't make it any less emotionally draining watching it. I was actually really blown away by Chris and Jen, as I always am, for putting themselves out there in such a vulnerable way and really letting everyone see what they've been through during the course of the last 7 years in making these films in many life-changing ways. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, and they've delivered on sort of the unthinkable, which is they created a sequel that I think stands along the first one beautifully, but also it's the first real musical sequel that I've ever experienced that actually works, where it's so hard to do a musical sequel. And Bobby and Kristen, similarly, like watching their process and having them stare into the eye of the beast and being able to create that was pretty fascinating to watch from the inside.
Take that. Love never dies. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Take that.
The thing that impresses me the most about what I've seen so far about Into the Unknown is the fact that they allowed them, as you mentioned, to be that vulnerable. I mean, the whole notion of, you know, the very first thing you learn is 9 months away from the premiere, only 22% of the movie done. And it's this room full of sweaty people who are like, who is Elsa talking to? You know, shouldn't we have decided that months ago? That would have been a nice thing to know right about now.
Yeah, but you guys know, isn't that the making of animated films in general, right? Like, I remember there was a meeting that I had with Bobby Lopez in Central Park. We were strolling through the park, and it was about, I want to say 6 or 7 months before Frozen came out. And Bobby looks at me and I go, "How's the movie going?" And he goes, "It's a mess." And I go, what do you mean it's a mess? He goes, "Well, here's the thing, where, you know, your part is working, thankfully, but like, we're setting up these sisters and the love for each other isn't working. We're going to try this thing. We have this song called, Do You Want to Build a Snowman? We're going to try it out and sort of try to connect the girls through music." And that was the last I heard. And then I sat down and I saw the movie. And my wife, who hates everything I do, looks at me and she goes, "This is really special." And that was sort of the moment where I was like, oh. And I think a lot of times that's just it. Is animation is about making something, breaking it, rebuilding it, breaking it, and then making it again. And you find what it wants to be in that process.
So what was the most different version of Frozen 2? Like, what was version A if we got version, like, F? What was the most
Okay, well,
different
first
version?
of all, I don't even know if I'm privy to say any of this, but there was a much more somber Olaf sequence towards the end of the film, to the point that I couldn't get through it because I was crying. It was so, and they actually screened it, I believe, with that scene in it, and it like traumatized people. There was there was an actual villain. Like I want to say that the grandfather was actually at some point still alive in the movie.
Yes.
And he was sort of like an active villain. You know, there were a couple of songs that I do remember. I laid down tracks, which I think are available on the actual CD and the digital version. Who still buys CD? I don't know why I'm saying CD. That just really just gave away my age.
Jim probably.
Jim
still
still
Actually,
does.
it's sad. I bought a CD. just recently. I'm ashamed. Anyway, continue.
I don't even know how to play CDs. I mean, even if I wanted, like, there's no place for a CD in my computer. But so I remember I recorded this song, and it was this sort of crazy song that was me at the piano. And that was pretty apparent to me, even when we did it, that was going to be cut. But I was like, sure, I'm game. So there were a lot of those things. But the movie was very different and very, very, even darker, I want to say.
Because the castle was wiped out, too, at one point,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of being game for things, I mean, can you talk a little bit about the shorts you did with Hiram? Because how quickly you guys turned those around and how beautiful they were. I mean, it was just kind of stunning, especially compared to the, 4 and 5 years it took us to get Frozen 2.
It was so unbelievably amazing to get a phone call from the creative team to say, we want to do something that just brings joy to people right now. To get that message early into the process of the stay-at-home orders and quarantine was pretty amazing. And that was a Jennifer Lee call. And I guess Hiram had been working on some version of this, but didn't really know what to do with them. So they called me up and they said, look, would you be game for doing these from home in this setup that I'm using now to talk to you guys? And I said, of course. And they said, are you game for doing like 20 of them? And I said, guys, what else am I doing right now? Of course I'll do that. My job was the easiest. I mean, I'm literally sitting here in front of a microphone. But to see the brilliance of these animators, led by Hiram and Jennifer, coming together with the sole purpose of giving people a smile in the midst of such darkness, that was just the mind-blowing part to me. And the shorts are incredible. I mean, that final one we did with that song by Bobby and Kristen, it's so emotional.
Yeah. And the 2D one is so great, too, to have a,
Who did that, by the way?
traditionally
I don't even
animated.
know who did that 2D one.
I don't know, but there were supposed to be 2 of them, and the other one got cut, I guess, for time and money. I mean, they're still working on movies now at the studio, so it's amazing
I know.
that they
They're
got
working on Raya.
Yeah. It's crazy they eked that stuff out.
It's insane.
Yeah. You're also working on a little show called Gaston or something. What is it called? Do we know what it's called?
No comment. But I will say that we wouldn't enter into a spin-off of Beauty and the Beast unless it was a slam dunk. And this feels, if it exists, like it might just be a slam dunk.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask, are you still developing this stuff during this time?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
I would say that if I were, I might have just handed in a script that I'm very proud of, along with music that I'm very proud of. But of course, I can't comment on any of that.
You can't. No. I'm very excited for that.
Hello, Fine Tuning listeners. It's Aaron Adams. I have to interrupt the show briefly to tell you that Jim asked a wonderful question, and Josh answered that question, then sent a message saying, hey, I'm not contractually allowed to talk about that. Can you remove that, please? So we had to do a snip, and now we have an extreme jump-in conversation where Drew talks about a painting by Joe Johnston for some reason that is completely unconnected to the thing that was cut out. Sort of. Maybe.
Well, Joe is obviously an animation legend also. I was at Brad Bird's house a couple years ago for the Mission Impossible podcast, and he had the framed sketch that Joe had done of the Iron Giant on his wall. Yeah. And I wanted to distract him and take it off the wall and run away.
Oh my God, I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I have always been an obsessee of Joe Johnson. I going back to like his work on the Spielberg films and Lucas films. So like for me, it's just even having the conversations with him that we're having has just been like out of body. And anytime we discuss, like I'll pitch an idea, and his idea is ultimately always so much better because he visually sees things that we can't see. And it's just, he's just a genius. He's a genius. And he's still so, like, when I tell you we had to pull him away from Atlanta, that is not an understatement. Literally drag him.
Wow. How mad were you that the prop show got Johnson and Moranis back before your movie?
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen it. I should. Now I'm mad.
Didn't you?
No, they did. They do a great job. They do geek speak well. The guy, Dan Lanigan, I believe, he seems to come from a very sincere place. In fact, I think Drew and I were having conversations about the fear that it was going to be the scary side of fandom, which, of course, you have no experience with.
Right. No, I've never dealt with that in my life. But I am fascinated by it. I got to see this. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
You've got a lot of cool stuff on the walls, though. You've got your Frozen gold record.
Actually, that right there.
I love the Jim Henson portrait.
Is the original music sheet that I was handed when I sang In Summer, and that's signed by Bobby and Kristen.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then there's a Beauty and the Beast poster and the comedians show I did with Billy Crystal and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah. So what else is going on? I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about what happened with Central Park this week and the decision that you guys made? Because
sure.
I mean, we just saw The Simpsons just released a similar statement.
They did?
Literally as we were, that no white actors will voice non-white characters on the show anymore.
I love that. The decision, Drew, was simple. It was late, and it was essential. I mean, I think that's all there is to really say about it. I think Kristen Bell is so extraordinary, and she's so gifted. But I think we all realize representation does matter, and I think we made a mistake. And you have to own it. You have to say, okay, I if I'm going to preach, then I have to practice what it is I preach. And to me, at a time when we all realize that there are voices who have not had the same opportunities that others have had, it's an opportunity. And why wouldn't you accept that opportunity as a creator? And so, it was essentially a no-brainer. And Kristen was so unbelievable and literally came to the conclusion simultaneously and said, I can't do this anymore. Right. And we all said, yeah, it's time. But we're going to find a new role for her. We're obsessed with her. She's extraordinary. Yeah. We are really excited about the opportunity to find somebody who can continue to tell Molly's stories and continue to help make them authentic and make them, I think, a very powerful part of the stories we're telling.
It also sort of let the cat out of the bag that there will be more episodes, too, because a lot of people had written up Central Park as a limited series. But
did they?
Yes.
Oh. Well, those people are incorrect. We were picked up for 2 seasons originally.
Okay.
And so we've actually been in the midst of, I've been getting animatics and thumatics like literally every day, all hours of the day from season 2. And so we're in the midst of that now. And what I will say is, as the show continues to evolve and grow, there is actually, not only am I excited about the opportunity of recasting Molly, but I think that there's some really incredible stories that we're about to tell that are going to blow people's socks off. And there's the level of music, which has been my sort of passion in this project, that we have coming your way is just, it's next level. I'm so excited about it.
The same thing. I was under the impression that the show had been picked up for additional seasons and wanted to know where you guys were in the production cycle. Has Christian recorded episodes of the second season? And
yeah, these are literally ongoing conversations that we're having in real time because frankly, we were already into voicing season 2, but we all made the decision that it's important to move immediately on, onto the next casting choices. And so we're in the midst of that process literally in real time right now. And despite the fact that we're almost at the tail end of production on season 2, our objective is to go back and re-record.
Holy cow, that's great. Wow.
Yeah.
To circle back to Central Park, I love the ambition of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've always enjoyed that Lauren folded as much music as he did into Bob's Burgers. So this is sort of next level stuff from, the wonderful musical numbers that periodically bubble up in that show. But it was like I was watching the skating number with
my God.
I mean, a great song, but crazy animation. I mean, just wonderfully staged. And you know exactly where to look and wonderful character work. But it's like, how did you pull the team together for this?
We are so blessed. Lauren, obviously, and his producing partner, Janelle, they have an unbelievable staff at Bento Box that's traditionally worked on the Bob stuff. And so we've had tremendous in-house talent, including Ian Hamilton, Bernard. There's a group of people over there who are just like amazing. Mario. But we have... We also have a lot of animation houses outside the country, which is normal. And one of those houses is called Tonic. And Tonic is sort of an up-and-comer, and they have been the ones who have been, I think, much to their chagrin, Jim, taking on these songs. Because, man, is it a lot of work. I mean, we are throwing things at them that they're like, this is... We've notoriously become the most difficult show, I think, ever, because what we're asking for is so insane, but people are also feeling so rewarded by working on it, obviously because of the praise the show is getting, but also because it is bold. It is taking big swings. It is insanely big. And I think that that's the joy of it. I think that that's the thrill, is everybody who's working on it is getting to do something that on another show like Bob's, you may only have one opportunity to do.
Yeah. I love how it's positioned too as this epic, but also having this sort of small family nucleus that the show can revolve around. It sort of gives it this great huge palette that's really refreshing and fun. I
think so. And the cast.
Oh, no, that's the thing. Tucci as Bitsy kills me. Just, and in fact, in the great tradition of John Roberts as Linda, is this one of Lauren's rules that you have to have a man voicing a woman in the show? Because
what's so funny is that Bitsy and Helen they're sort of like, they're caricatures in a way. They're these characters that are so sinister that it's sort of fun to poke fun at them by having them voiced by such insanely unexpected tones like the ones Daveed Diggs and Stanley Tucci give us. But there is something about like the bread and butter over in Lauren's brain that is these iconic sort of voices that are so unexpected coming out of these women on his show.
Speaking of voices, where are we at on Angry Birds 3? We got a ETA on that one?
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
You tell me. You know more than I do.
I liked the second one.
How funny is that second one, man? I
like it a lot.
He's a great director. He is a great director. What I love about the second one is it knows not to take itself seriously. That urinal scene in that movie is honestly like, I only saw that movie in the theater at the premiere, and I hadn't seen that sequence, and I literally think I spit out my drink because I was just like, what is this? This is insane. But I love working on those movies. They're just sort of like, they almost feel akin to Looney Tunes, right? Like they just feel like of that ilk.
It's all gag.
It's all gag, which is fun. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Jim, did you ever see the second one?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
The first one had some wonderful sequences, some great character work, and this one was just sort of like, okay, we're going to upend the toy box and throw all sorts of ideas out. It was great fun.
Yeah.
One final question here, and forgive me, because, again, I so loved your work on the stage, Norman and the like. And there was talk several years ago now about you possibly doing Forum on Broadway.
Oh, yeah. No, those were very real discussions. Ultimately, I didn't take it because theater is so damn hard. It is all consuming. I always joke that it's the most work for the least amount of money and the greatest reward, right? And that commitment took a toll, a personal toll. You know, I moved my wife and my newborn. We had just had our child, Ava, my oldest, who's obsessed with listening to your show, by the way. She is obsessed with all things Disney, and so like she loves listening, and it's just given me such a joy. And so she was 1 month old when I had to leave for New York, and then 4 months old when we could be reunited again. And that was really hard. And then the hours involved, and my wife did not love living on the East Coast in winter, and it was just a lot of that. And so I've been very sort of hesitant, which is why it's been 9 years since I did Book of Mormon, to come back, just because of the sheer commitment involved. But having said that, right before all this happened, I was in the midst of potentially announcing my return. And so I hope to do that very soon for something really special.
Oh, very cool.
You've managed to touch all these properties that you clearly love. But is there something that is either out of reach or something that you would love to still sort of tackle?
Oh man, there's so much. What I'm really loving is actually working on original stuff that I am. There's oftentimes you do movies and there are so many factors that are outside of your control. And it's up to the movie gods and to the people that you trust to put it together. You hope for the best. Sometimes you get the worst and you're just like, okay. But what's nice about being behind the scenes and having the opportunity to actually take ownership of the things that I'm doing is I get to be the one to ultimately have to answer for it. And with Central Park, that was sort of my first baby that I birthed and brought to the world. And it's been a thrill. And that's where I'm really finding the most joy right now, even with Reunited Apart. That is ultimately so rewarding because it's me, it's my brainchild. So, adaptations I think are great, and I'm loving them. We have in development. I'm doing something with Rip Van Winkle that's being adapted at Warner Brothers with the brilliant Cynthia Erivo starring and Amanda Doko writing. And I have Hunchback of Notre Dame also being developed at Disney by written by David Huang, who's just incredible.
How's that going, by the way?
God, it's a tough nut to crack, but David has brought such poetry, beauty, and ownership to every page of the script. And it is just, it just continues to get better and better. And it's one of those movies that I think can take the original animated film and build on it, right? In a way that I think a lot of the sort of Disney adaptations have been burdened with already perfect movies that you then have to match. Right. And I love the fact that I love that movie so much, but I can also say that there are flaws with that movie. And I think that it's an opportunity to continue to evolve it and make it even potentially better. And so that's our hope, and that's what we want to do, and we won't do it unless we can achieve that.
Is Hellfire in right now or out? Because I hear that was a sticking point. I won't say who I heard it from. Could have been an Oscar-nominated composer.
All I will
that I
say
heard
is
this from,
it is the process of taking any song away from Menken and Schwartz is a process you don't want to be involved with. So everything right now is fair game.
Okay. That is very diplomatic. Very diplomatic.
All right. You touched just a moment ago on Reunited Together, and I want to tell you,
it's called Reunited Apart.
Reunited Apart. So close. I'm sorry. It's my dad brain.
By the way,
I reverse everything.
By the way, Al Roker this morning on the Today Show made the same mistake you did. You're in good company. He also called it Reunited Together. Okay. I was like, I just should rename it.
But here's the thing. You do I Drew and I know from doing interviews, that is, doing interviews over this format is so tough to begin with. But when you've got 4, 5, 6 different people and you're basically the lion tamer, you do such a great job of, moving the show along, setting people up for questions. I mean, just such a wonderful job there.
That is a huge compliment coming from you, because you guys are extraordinary at what you do, and it's very hard to do what you do. And I beat myself up. I don't necessarily think I'm very good at it, but what I know, and I think you guys can relate to this, is when you're talking about things you love, people feel that, right? This is why I've done the movies I've done. It's why I did Back to the Future. It's why I did The Goonies. It's why I did Lord of the Rings, Splash, Ghostbusters, Ferris Bueller. These are movies that were literally a part of the foundation and the cornerstone of my childhood. So like growing up with them, experiencing them, and now getting to share them with my kids gives me a fandom, a respect for them. Drew, it's the same with, your Light the Fuse podcast. You're obsessed with those movies, right? And so It's like the audience feeds on that. And that was my hope. And I appreciate that greatly, Jim. I really do. It is a tough job. And like I said, you guys are much better at it than I am, because I'm calling it quits after 6.
How much crazy Corey Feldman stuff did you have to cut out? There seemed like there was some very judicious
Corey was remarkably
editing.
Good. I mean, like...
Okay.
That one was probably my favorite one to do in general, because I feel so bad for your audience. I thought it was coming on for like a 5-minute hello, and they've had to listen to me for the... I apologize to all of you. You deserve better than this. But I did Goonies as my first episode, because that movie is probably the one I've seen more than any other. And, Corey and the entire cast were so giving. They were just so open and so available and so ready to play. Because, when you come to a bunch of celebrities and you say, hey, I want you to do lines from a movie that's 35 years old, you expect them to say, get the hell out of here. No, I'm not going to do that. But they all were like, okay. And then you call up Steven Spielberg and you're like, hey, would you, think about coming on and reuniting with the cast of The Goonies, a movie you didn't direct? But yeah, sure. Like it's sort of so surreal. And then you actually face these people on your screen and you're like, oh God, I hope I'm not a fraud.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It felt like a continuation of your needling Daisy Ridley videos, which I always loved.
We had so much fun. That came out of Daisy and I becoming very close on the set of Murder on the Orient Express, and the two of us just had just a blast ribbing each other, and she was just so game, and I find myself very blessed that so many people in my orbit are willing to let me make a fool of myself in front of them.
Considerably fewer people put up with me and Jim, so you should feel blessed.
Look, I didn't want to be on your bad side, which is why I'm like, okay, I'll definitely come on and say hi to Jim. Hell, no, you guys are great, and the world needs this kind of thing right now. It needs joy, and what you are both putting out into the world is joy. It reminds people of what they love. And at a time where it's easy to forget that there's so much to love and so much to enjoy, it's a reminder and a necessary one.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sorry we monopolized 30 minutes of your,
no.
your Friday afternoon.
Didn't monopolize anything.
No, this was a treat. Wow. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for helping me pull a fast one on Jim.
I love it. Jim, were you shocked?
Suspicious.
Were you surprised? Were you hoping for Tom Cruise?
I had no idea this was happening. He just, again, this is the first time we've done this. He just reached out and said, I have the feature. And it was like, okay, I trust you. And Drew will...
The only time I ever volunteered to do more work is when I know.
And this is the thing. Drew will tell you, I over-prepare for every show. I throw him 5 and 6 pages of reference and research, and the whole notion of, I have something, is like, okay, I trust you. And then I won.
Now, Jim, you know that historically I love you. I've told you of my love for you. But I have to additionally add that what impresses me so much about you is how well read you are. Because I have a lot of books in my library. I do a lot of reading. But you're like this lexicon of information, a lot of it useless, but nevertheless, like I'm so impressed with the capacity of your brain for how much information you always have at your disposal. It's really fascinating and amazing to see.
Well,
Yeah, I'm trying to download Jim's brain onto a hard drive or something, just so I can access it more readily.
you get a surprising amount of space you free up if you eliminate math, science, the actual skills one could use in life. So that's very kind of you to say.
It's true.
Well, thank you so much. And when we can all see each other, let's go to Disneyland.
Ooh, yes,
I'm pretty sure you can get us a plaid pretty easily.
I'll hook you guys up. Like, I don't think you need it, but I'll hook you up if you need it.
Well, we'll provide the sort of walking tour, and then we'll do it. But thank you so much for being on, and talk to you soon.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Bye.
Okay.
So there you go, Jim. How was that? Was that a good surprise?
That was a surprise, and you're going to have to cut out the first minute or so while I'm gooning. So that was great. Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah,
and
there you
more
go.
to the point, I think we actually break news on a couple of things in there. So
Yeah, I think so too.
thank you. That was such a treat. I mean, again, Drew and Josh had their cameras on. I don't traditionally turn on my camera. Nobody needs to see a ham-shaped face, staring back.
I miss your face, Jim. I miss your face.
But speaking of non-hams, I mean, we're talking high choice, wonderful items. You have just been doing such a spectacular job over at Light Diffuse. It's been this, especially since the super length 100th episode. It's been this extraordinary run of shows.
Listen, Jim, I'm not gonna disagree with you on this.
And well, but let's talk about who you're talking with now. What's next?
Well, the day we're recording, is our first part of our interview with Roger Guyette, who is an ILM master, and he is a great storyteller. Jim, you will love his stories. They are absolutely outrageous and wonderful. And we talk about Pirates of the Caribbean next week, and some other things. And then we have our two-parter with Gary Rydstrom, who animation fans and movie fans should know, as being a true powerhouse. He won 2 Oscars in 1 year. So, he is really cool, and he talks a lot about what happened with Newt and some of his Pixar shorts. So you're really going to want to check out those because they are awesome. And he is just like a great guy. And
Killer.
I love him to death. So yeah.
Okay. That's appointment listening, folks. So make sure to check those podcasts out. Over on this side of the fence, we got the usual assortment. We got Disney Dish with Len Testa. Len is doing all of these walkarounds of the magic.
I know. I'm listening to them. Him sweatily going, there's a rabbit over there.
Well, and the other thing is, I love how you can tell he's wearing a mask. That slightly muffled quality, and I love the moment out of the thing where he almost gets consumed by turkey buzzards. That
was scary.
And the sad thing is, if I had a list of Disney bloggers that I'd prefer to have fed to turkey buzzards,
I know.
We won't go down that road with you. You have too many. I follow you on Twitter. I know. Okay, so what else? We also have looking at Lucasfilm with Dan Z, and you just did a show with Dan, right?
I did, yeah. We talked about the animated Clone Wars, which we've talked about on this show, the Genndy Tartakovsky ones. So, that was fun. I didn't see him drinking coffee, though. So, like I said, I don't know if it was all a mirage or something. But, yeah, I think I recorded it.
I think at this point, it's an IV.
As long as it's not a suppository. Let's just...
Oh, I knew you were going to go there. Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure when we're going to be doing a new Marvelous Disney podcast because Aaron Adams, poor Aaron, at his apartment complex, 4 apartments down from him, they had a fire.
Oh, wow.
And you'll love this, Drew. In fact, Aaron was quick to point this out because, the apartment that caught fire was apartment 2020.
Ooh.
So doesn't that?
I thought you were going to tell me the first thing he grabbed was his makeshift R2D2 life-size model that he was working on.
If he did, he'd be wearing a truss now. That thing is heavy. But yeah, I just again, it kind of speaks volumes about this year that it was apartment 2020 that caught fire. Yeah. And this weekend I'll be recording a new Universal joint with Dustin Fuse, and likewise a new I Want That with Michelle show via Do Lead, so look for those. If you could head over to iTunes and rate and recommend not only what you're listening to right now, Fine Tuning, but also Light the Fuse, that would be incredibly helpful. Also, likewise, if you really like what you heard here today, and who could not like hearing Josh Gad, head over to Bandcamp and subscribe. And beyond that, again, Drew, I get so much entertainment out of you on Twitter. So,
thank you.
Please,
Thank you.
Tell folks how they can follow you and also find out who you are annoyed with in the Disney blogging community. Yeah.
Well, I am at Drew Tailored, like a tailored suit, Tailored. And it's been a busy week on Twitter this week with the Splash Mountain news and everything else.
Yeah.
And that's also the best place to see all of my writings, my many
Could you just?
Many writings.
I feel like a positive piker compared to how many stories you do per week over at Collider. Do Katie and Nova even recognize you anymore?
Well, we're sort of all working in the spare bedroom, so she sees me, sweating over the computer. But
No.
yeah, I've got some good stories for this week for everybody, so hopefully those will all turn out.
Definitely check that stuff out, folks. It's an absolutely killer. All right, so anyway, thanks again to Drew for bringing in Josh Gad. How cool.
Yeah,